Hello, fellows. Mr. Eugene here, and today we're examining a phenomenon that confuses younger people, frustrates women, and gets dismissed as bitterness or fear, but is actually something far more rational, far more deliberate, far more grounded than anyone acknowledges. I keep hearing the same sentence from men over 50, men who've been married, men who've had long-term relationships, men who know exactly what partnership requires. I'd rather be alone than start over again. And the surprising part, the part that people miss entirely, is that they're not angry when they say it. They're not bitter. They're not broken or damaged or afraid. They're clear. This is not men failing at relationships. This is men making a conscious, deliberate choice based on lived experience and honest assessment of what they value. After decades of responsibility, compromise, shared decision-making, and emotional investment, many men reach a conclusion that shocks people who've never been there. Peace and autonomy are more valuable than partnership and companionship. Not for all men. Not even for most men, but for a significant and growing number of mature men who've done the work of relationship, who've experienced both the rewards and the costs, who've lived through marriage or long-term commitment. The answer to, would you do it again, is a calm, resolute, non-negotiable no. Today, we're examining why experienced men are choosing solitude over partnership, what they experienced that led to this choice, what changed in their priorities and perspective, why peace becomes more valuable than companionship, how this decision is different from younger men's avoidance, what this means for dating dynamics, and most critically, why this choice deserves respect rather than dismissal as fear or failure. This is not about bitterness toward women. This is not about claiming victimhood or declaring relationships worthless. This is about understanding how lived experience changes priorities and recognizing that choosing solitude can be the highest form of self-knowledge rather than the saddest form of defeat. Stay with me. This will challenge everything you think you know about men who choose to be alone. What they experienced, the foundation of the choice. Let me start by establishing what these men have already lived through, because you cannot understand the choice without understanding the experience that preceded it. They've done the work of long-term relationship. These are not men avoiding relationships out of fear or inexperience. These are men who were married for 10, 20, 30 plus years, raised children through all stages, shared finances, homes, lives completely, made countless compromises and adjustments, navigated conflict, challenge, difficulty, experienced both the intimacy and the friction of long-term partnership. They know what relationship requires because they've lived it fully. They're not theorizing or imagining. They have decades of direct experience. They've carried responsibility for years or decades. They were primary provider, working to support family, carrying financial stress, planning for future stability, decision maker, responsible for major life choices affecting multiple people, carrying weight of those decisions, problem solver, handling household issues, family crises, ongoing challenges that never stopped coming, emotional anchor, expected to be stable, reliable, present regardless of their own state. They carried this responsibility consistently year after year without much recognition or appreciation for the weight of it. They've experienced loss or separation. Something ended the relationship, death, wife passed away. Years of partnership ended suddenly. Now he faces choice, find new partner or remain alone. Divorce, marriage ended after long run. Legal, financial, emotional devastation. Now he's considering whether to try again. Natural ending, long-term relationship ran its course. They separated amicably or painfully. Now he's evaluating next steps. The ending created space for reflection. For the first time in decades, they're living alone, and many discover something unexpected: relief. The surprising discovery, peace after partnership. This is where the shift begins, with a discovery that shocks the men experiencing it, the relief they didn't expect after the relationship ends, whether through death, divorce, or separation. Many men experience reduced stress, the constant low-level tension of managing another person's emotions, moods, needs, expectations, gone. Mental clarity, no longer navigating complex interpersonal dynamics, reading moods, calibrating responses, brain space freed up, autonomy restored, making decisions without consultation, negotiation, compromise, moving through life at their own pace. Peaceful environment. Home is quiet when they want quiet. Active when they want active. No managing someone else's needs for space or interaction. They feel guilty about the relief at first. They think, I shouldn't feel this way. I should miss partnership more. Something must be wrong with me. But the relief persists, and eventually they stop questioning it and start recognizing it as valid information about what they actually value. The new baseline after living alone for months or years, this becomes their new normal, waking up and structuring their day without consulting anyone, eating what they want when they want, spending money on their priorities without discussion, pursuing hobbies without negotiating time, having friends over without coordination, traveling on impulse, living in an environment organized exactly how they prefer. This creates a new baseline for evaluating future relationships. They're no longer comparing relationship versus nothing. They're comparing relationship versus this peace and autonomy I now have. And for many, relationship loses that comparison. The evaluation shift, counting the real costs. Once they experience life alone after years of partnership, they begin evaluating relationships differently. The cost accounting, they start honestly assessing what relationship actually costs. Time investment, daily interaction and conversation, managing schedules together, coordinating activities, spending time on relationship maintenance, total 15 to 25 hours per week, minimum emotional energy, reading moods and adjusting behavior, managing conflicts and disagreements, providing emotional support, handling her anxieties and insecurities, recovering from arguments, total, constant, low-level expenditure autonomy sacrifice. Every major decision requires consultation. Money spending requires agreement. Time allocation requires coordination. Living space arranged by compromise. Social life involves her preferences. Total, near complete loss of unilateral decision-making lifestyle adjustment. Adapting to her schedule and preferences, accommodating her needs and wants, compromising on everything from temperature to TV shows, maintaining relationship even when you'd prefer solitude. Total, constant minor adjustments that accumulate financial cost, dates, gifts, vacations, larger living space, her preferences and purchases, potential marriage and divorce risks. Total, significant ongoing expense, the reward assessment, then they honestly assess what they get in return, companionship. But is this worth the cost if you're content alone? Sexual access, but if sex drive has decreased with age, is this sufficient motivation? Emotional intimacy, but if you've learned to meet your own emotional needs, is dependency on another for this valuable? Shared experiences, but can you not have meaningful experiences alone or with friends? Social validation, but if you don't care what others think, does this matter? Legacy, family, but if you've already raised children, is this still relevant? The calculation many reach after honest accounting. The costs are certain and constant. The rewards are uncertain and diminishing. For where I am in life, with what I value now, this is not a good investment. This is not bitterness. This is mathematics. When costs exceed benefits, rational people stop engaging in the activity. Why peace becomes the priority. Now, let me explain why peace becomes so valuable that it outweighs companionship, the peace they rediscovered after years of relationship management. They rediscover what peace actually feels like. Environmental peace. Home is exactly as they want it. Noise level is controlled. Organization matches their preferences. No one disrupting their space. Emotional peace. No managing someone else's emotions. No conflicts to navigate. No mood reading required. No walking on eggshells mental peace. No relationship problems occupying mind space. No anticipating needs or calibrating responses. No wondering if she's upset. No relationship maintenance tasks schedule peace. Day unfolds at their own pace. No coordinating or compromising. No obligations beyond what they choose. Time is entirely their own decision piece. No consultation required. No negotiation needed. No compromise on preferences. Unilateral control over life choices. Why this becomes more valuable than partnership at a certain age. After decades of responsibility and compromise, energy becomes finite and precious. They recognize they have limited energy remaining. Spending it on relationship management feels less appealing than spending it on pursuits they find genuinely fulfilling. Conflict becomes intolerable. After years of navigating disagreements, the thought of signing up for more conflict feels exhausting rather than worthwhile. Autonomy becomes sacred. Having regained control over their own life, the thought of surrendering it again feels like loss rather than gain. Predictability becomes valuable. Knowing what each day will bring, having control over environment and schedule, this stability feels more valuable than the excitement of new relationship. Peace becomes the foundation of well-being. Everything they value, clarity, focus, contentment, purpose, flows from peace. Relationship threatens peace. Therefore, relationship threatens well-being. The modern dating factor. Why starting over feels impossible even if they wanted to try again. Modern dating presents obstacles that feel insurmountable. The dating process itself, starting a new relationship at 55, 60, 65 plus requires using dating apps, learning technology designed for younger people, creating profiles, swiping through hundreds of profiles, competing with men of all ages. This feels absurd and undignified. Repeated first dates, having the same introductory conversations repeatedly, explaining your history over and over. Interviewing and being interviewed, hoping for chemistry that may never materialize. Getting to know someone, learning their preferences, patterns, history, quirks, building intimacy from zero. This process that felt exciting at 25 feels exhausting at 60. Adjusting lifestyles, coordinating two established lives, compromising on habits formed over decades, merging routines that have been solo for years. For many men, the thought of this process creates visceral resistance. It feels like enormous effort for uncertain outcome. The risk assessment starting new relationship at this age means risking another divorce if it doesn't work, going through legal, financial, emotional devastation again. Wasted time, if relationship fails after 5 to 10 years, that's time they cannot get back. Disrupted peace, even if relationship continues, it means permanent loss of the peace and autonomy they've come to value. Financial exposure, merging finances or cohabiting creates vulnerability, especially if she has less than he does. Many men conclude, the potential downside is catastrophic. The potential upside is uncertain. At my age, with what I have to lose, this is not a rational gamble. The hormonal and psychological shifts. There are also biological and psychological changes that affect this decision. Testosterone decline as men age. Testosterone decreases significantly. This affects sex drive, diminishes substantially. Competitive impulses decrease. Need for external validation reduces. Drive to pursue women lessens. What once felt like urgent biological need now feels optional. The drive that would have propelled him to pursue relationship despite costs, that drive is significantly diminished. This makes rational cost-benefit analysis possible. When biology isn't screaming, pursue women, rational evaluation becomes clearer. Psychological maturation, life experience creates psychological shifts, less emotional, more rational, decisions based on clear assessment rather than emotional impulse. Long-term thinking, evaluating choices based on 10 to 20-year outcomes rather than immediate gratification. Acceptance of mortality, understanding time is limited, focuses priorities on what truly matters rather than what they're supposed to want. Reduced social concern, caring less what others think makes unconventional choices easier to make. These shifts make choosing solitude psychologically easier because the internal and external pressures that push men toward relationship have diminished significantly. This is not what younger men experience. It's critical to distinguish this from younger men avoiding relationships, young men avoiding relationships. When 25-year-old men avoid relationships, often driven by fear of commitment, wanting to play the field, immaturity about what relationship requires, avoiding responsibility, preferring freedom for self-centered reasons. This is often developmental stage. They haven't yet developed capacity for sustained partnership. They're avoiding growth rather than making informed choice. Older men choosing solitude when 60-year-old men choose solitude driven by lived experience of what relationship requires, honest assessment of costs versus benefits given current values, understanding of their own needs and priorities, desire to protect peace they've earned, rational choice based on decades of data. This is not avoidance, it's informed selection. They're not afraid of relationship. They've done relationship, they're choosing something else based on what they've learned. The difference is profound. Young men avoiding relationships may be avoiding growth. Older men choosing solitude may be demonstrating the highest form of self-knowledge. The social pressure and misunderstanding men who make this choice face significant social pressure. What others say family, you need someone to take care of you. You shouldn't be alone in your golden years. We worry about you being isolated. Friends, get back out there. There are plenty of women your age looking. You're giving up too easily. Society, something must be wrong with him. He must be bitter from his divorce. He's just afraid of getting hurt again. The underlying assumption is always, being alone is failure. Choosing solitude means something is wrong with you. The reality they're not seeing, but the men who make this choice are not isolated. They have friends, family, community. Not bitter, they've processed their past and moved forward. Not afraid, they're making proactive choice, not avoiding from fear. Not failing, they're succeeding at building the life they actually want. They're choosing solitude as a positive preference, not accepting it as negative default. But this is almost impossible for others to understand, because most people cannot conceive of solitude as genuinely preferable to partnership. What this choice looks like in practice. Let me give you concrete examples of what this choice actually looks like. Robert, 58, 3 years after divorce, married 27 years. Divorce finalized 3 years ago. Initially devastated. Thought he'd date again once he healed. What he discovered, his days: wakes at 5 a.m., coffee in silence, reads for an hour, works on projects he enjoys, lunch when he's hungry, afternoon pursuing hobbies, evening with friends twice a week, alone the other nights, bed when he's tired, his environment, home organized exactly as he wants, temperature set to his preference, music he likes, projects scattered around that no one complains about, his finances, spending on his priorities, tools, travel, hobbies, no negotiations, no explaining purchases, his social life, deep friendships with several men, mentoring younger people, involved in community, rich social connection without romantic partnership, his assessment: why would I trade this piece for relationship drama? I have everything I need. Partnership would subtract from my life, not add to it. William, 63, widower for 5 years, married 35 years. Wife died of cancer 5 years ago, expected to eventually date again. Family keeps encouraging him. What he discovered, his emotional state, after grief passed, he found contentment. Not happiness necessarily, but deep peace. Life is simple, manageable, under his control. His daily rhythm, routine he's perfected over 5 years. Everything efficient. No chaos, no unexpected emotional demands. His freedom, travels when he wants, where he wants. Visits grandchildren without coordinating with partner. Lives on his schedule entirely. His assessment: I love my wife, but I don't want to love anyone else that way again. It requires too much. I'm content with what I have now. That's not disrespecting her memory. It's honoring the life I have left. George, 73, never remarried after divorce at 55 AA, married 25 years, divorced at 55, dated a few women in his late 52nds, realized he preferred being alone, has lived solo for 18 years. What he built, his purpose: woodworking business he runs at his own pace, mentoring young craftsmen, creating pieces he's proud of. His community, regular group of friends who fish, play cards, work on projects, weekly dinners with different friend groups, his autonomy, complete control over his life, no one to answer to, no one's approval needed, no compromises on anything. His perspective: at my age, why would I surrender this autonomy? For companionship, I have friends. For sex, that ship has sailed and I don't miss it. For someone to take care of me when I'm old, I'd rather hire help than live with someone. I have exactly the life I want. Adding a woman wouldn't improve it. Why this deserves respect, not pity. This is where we need to fundamentally shift how we view this choice. Society treats this as failure, the common narrative. Sad old man who gave up on love, probably bitter and lonely, needs to get back out there and find someone. This narrative assumes partnership is universally desirable. Being alone means being lonely. Choosing solitude indicates emotional damage. Real fulfillment requires romantic relationship. All of these assumptions are wrong for many people. This is actually self-knowledge these men have, lived long enough to understand themselves deeply, experienced both partnership and solitude, evaluated honestly what brings them peace, made deliberate choice based on their values, designed lives that genuinely fulfill them. This is the opposite of failure. This is success. Success is not doing what society expects. Success is building a life aligned with your actual values and needs. If a man genuinely values peace and autonomy more than companionship and partnership, choosing solitude is the successful choice, not the failed one. Not for everyone, and that's the point. Critical clarification: this doesn't mean all men should choose this. Some men genuinely value partnership above autonomy. For them, relationship costs are worth it. They should absolutely pursue relationship. Some men are lonely alone and fulfilled in partnership. For them, solitude would be torture. They should seek companionship. Some men want to try again despite past difficulties. For them, hope of better relationship outweighs risk. They should pursue it. The point is not that all men should choose solitude. The point is that choosing solitude is a valid option that deserves respect. Different men, different values, what brings fulfillment varies. Some men need partnership to feel complete. Some men need autonomy to feel at peace. Some men balance both through specific relationship structures. Some men's needs change across lifespan. All of these are valid. None is superior to others. The question is, what do you actually value? Not what you're supposed to value. What do you actually value? For men who honestly answer, I value peace and autonomy above companionship, choosing solitude is the aligned choice. What this means going forward. Now let me address what this trend means more broadly. For individual men, if you're considering this choice, be honest about what you truly value, not what you think you should value, what actually brings you peace and fulfillment. Don't let social pressure override your assessment. Others will pressure you to date. They mean well, but they don't live your life. Build a genuine life alone, not just avoid relationships. Choosing solitude only works if you actively create fulfilling solo life, friendships, purpose, community, hobbies, growth. Remain open to change. Choosing solitude now doesn't mean forever. If circumstances change or you change, you can always reconsider. Don't weaponize this choice. Choosing solitude is personal preference, not indictment of all women or all relationships. For society, we need to expand acceptable life paths. Not everyone finds fulfillment through romantic partnership. That's okay. Respect different choices. Man who chooses solitude isn't failing or damaged. He's making an informed choice about his life. Stop equating alone with lonely. Solitude can be chosen and fulfilling. Loneliness can exist even in relationships. Recognize that priorities change across lifespan. What a man values at 30% may differ dramatically from what he values at 65. Final thoughts. Clarity, not bitterness. Here's what people need to understand about men choosing solitude over partnership. This is not about bitterness. It's about clarity. These men didn't walk away from relationships because they failed. They walked away because they finally understood what they truly value and had the courage to choose it despite social pressure to do otherwise. They're not angry at women. They're not declaring relationships worthless. They're not telling others what to do. They're simply saying, I've done relationship. I understand what it requires. I've experienced what solitude offers. When I honestly compare the two, for me at this stage of life with these values, solitude wins. That's not defeat. That's self-knowledge. At some point, a man stops chasing what he was told to want and starts choosing what actually brings him peace. For some men, that's partnership. For others, it's solitude. Both are valid. Both deserve respect. The men who choose solitude aren't giving up. They're finally understanding themselves clearly enough to build lives that genuinely fit rather than lives that meet external expectations. And once that shift happens, once a man knows what he actually values and has the courage to choose it, everything changes. He stops explaining himself, stops justifying, stops caring whether others understand. He just lives the life he designed, in peace, on his terms, exactly as he wants. And if that's not success, I don't know what is. Drop a comment about your experience. Have you chosen solitude? Are you considering it? What do you value most, partnership or peace? Subscribe because this channel will continue examining life choices that challenge conventional wisdom but reflect genuine self-knowledge. Stay true, stay clear, and never let anyone shame you for choosing a life that genuinely fits you.